President. Please be seated. The court is back in session. I hand over the floor to the prosecutor to resume his line of questioning to the witness. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Numo, before the break, you had mentioned Battambang, and when you were talking about an evacuation, you said they were taken by train to Battambang. Now, is that something you saw, or is that something you have heard from other people?
Concerning the evacuation of people to Battambang, I did not witness it by myself. But I heard that people had been evacuated to Battambang and Kampong Chnang provinces. I did not even know the exact number of people evacuated. I, at that time, was in a cooperative in Warsaw village, Samrang Tong district, Kampong Speu province. I was not given any task to do at that time. In other words, my right, my authority was removed. The cooperative chief had me worked in a handicraft workshop, and I learned from others over there that their relatives had been evacuated to Kampong Chnang and Battambang provinces. That's what I knew, and the exact number of evacuees I did not know. That is all.
Were any of your friends or relatives or people from your village where you were evacuated to Battambang?
Yes, I had some relatives who were evacuated to Battambang, and some of my relatives were evacuated to Kampong Leng district, Kampong Chnang province. I learned about this evacuation of my relatives from others. I did not know the fate of my relatives who were evacuated. The hope of survival was very minimal. There were many casualties in the course of evacuation. So, to answer your question, I learned about this evacuation from the villager in the Pang Thom cooperative. I learned from the villagers, from a villager who were from my hometown in the Pang Thom, who was then in the cooperative, who told me about that evacuation.
It may be a difficult question for you to answer, but can you tell us what year it was when people were speaking about the evacuation to Battambang?
I do not recall the year, but at that time, both new and old people who were incorporated into a cooperative spoke about it and that was the reason I knew about this evacuation. And I knew that those people who had been evacuated were living in a miserable condition. And there was no communication allowed at that time. People could not communicate with each other. When I was in that cooperative, they removed all of my authorities or privilege, and I was made to work in a handicraft workshop. And again, I did not know the exact number of people who had been evacuated. I only learned from others that my relatives were already evacuated. I did not know the fate of those relatives, but I was told that those people hope for survival was minimal. That's what I knew at that time. That is all.
Mr. President, I've asked open-ended questions as to the timings. The document does help on this point. Can I please refer to it again as a memory-refreshing document?
The President, you may proceed.
I refer to English ERN 00419463. Khmer 009099941. French 00893549. The document states, from 1970-1975, the people supported the war. In 1975-76, they lost their position because of evacuations from Kampong Speu to Battambang, Kampong Speu to Koh Kong. Close quote. Mr. Numuk, having had your memory refreshed, does it sound right, or do you agree, that it was in 1975/1976 that these evacuations were being spoken of?
I knew about the plan of the Khmer Rouge, who planned to evacuate people to Battambang province. It was the plan devised by the Khmer Rouge. The objective of the evacuation was to disconnect communication of or between the new people and old people. So, in practice, they evacuated the base people in Kampong Chnang to Kampong Speu, and then the base people from Kampong Speu to Kampong Chnang. So what I observed at that time was that people at the base also died as a consequence of the evacuation policy, and the new people from Phnom Penh, also died in the course of this evacuation. So this was actually a political suicide by the Khmer Rouge themselves. But I myself did not have any right, any authority whatsoever at that time, because I became sick. I could not do anything. I was only made to work in a handicraft workshop in Chambok village. I work over there. For women, they were made to sew clothes, and for men, they were tasked to produce plow and other agricultural tools. And some of us were made to build wooden houses, and houses were built in a row in the cooperative. That was what I knew, and I believe that this evacuation led to many casualties, not only for the people in Phnom Penh but also the base people. And the main object behind this policy was to disconnect communication between the new people and the old people. This is not my assumption, but this is the truth, because I saw the evacuation of people from Koh Kong, and then they were relocated at Srah Thul, which was also my home village. And people in Srah Thul was transferred back to Koh Kong. Obviously, this policy was devised in order that people did not communicate with each other. And as for food regime, it was not enough either. So evacuation was meant for death, actually. That's what I knew. That is all. Thank you.
Mr. Numu, after the evacuation in 1975 in April from Phnom Penh, did you know of a place called, excuse my pronunciation, and if you don't understand, say so. Did you know of a place called Srok Pong?
When I was relocated to Warsaw, a commune, I never contacted Tpong district, but I did know Tpong district, but I did not grasp the situation, the demographic situation of the district. As I said, it was difficult to come up with the exact demographic data because people had been transferred out of the district. They were swapped with people from other places. The base people were taken out and the new people were taken in. That's what I knew of the situation at that place. Thank you.
Do you remember if any people in particular were taken to Srok Tapong?
People who were evacuated to Tpong district when the fighting was erupting in Phnom Penh, and people who were evacuated from Odong, they were relocated in Tpong district, but I did not know its exact whereabout in this district. But people could have been evacuated from Odong, and then they were traveling along Liang, but I did not know the exact location where they resided. But I heard from the commune committee and the district committee about that evacuation. So the base people in Tpong had already been evacuated elsewhere, and the evacuees who were actually evacuated from Adong were relocated in Tpong district.
Can you help the court, please, on what, if anything, happened to officials from the former Lon Nol regime or military officers?
They evacuated people regardless of their civil status. People were evacuated, and some of them were told that they would be taken for further training in order to fight back. For evacuees from the southwest zone were told that they would be taken for education, but they never returned. I assume that they must have been killed. I saw groups of Lon Nol soldiers were taken away. Those soldiers were not armed. Even if they had a rifle with them, they would be asked to put them aside, and then they were just taken away. And some of them were told that they were taken to fight with the Vietnamese. Groups of them were taken away, but we all thought that those people must have been killed. So they evacuated people irregardless of their status, whether they be civilian or military personnel. It is my personal judgment that those who were told to go for education with the upper organization, those people were destined for death. So overall, people were cheated by the Khmer Rouge. The Khmer Rouge was, in general, gentle. They appear very gentle, but they were very cruel. They killed people indiscriminately. The President interrupts. Counsel, if you have anything to raise, you may proceed. Counsel Kong Sumon. Mr. Prosecutor, ask a very brief question to the witness. But since this morning, the witness has never responded to the question of the prosecutor, and his question has always been long-winded, and it never addressed the question posed by the prosecutor, and the prosecutor has kept complaining that he needs time to put more questions to this witness.
Mr. President, may I add an observation from my side? That is an objection as well, but maybe more phrased in an instruction to the witness. Would you please instruct this witness again that he is not here to speculate or to make assumptions or to conclude, just merely stating or testifying what he has seen and what he has heard. He is continuously making assumptions, and there's no place for these assumptions or speculations in this courtroom when it comes to this witness.
My next question has absolutely nothing to do with assumptions.
But my request stands, Mr. President, and that would be that you specifically instruct the witness not to speculate or assume, just to testify as to the things that he know or saw.
The President, witness, the chamber has already advised you as to your duty as a witness to testify before the chamber. You can testify to the effect that you actually experienced yourself, or you witnessed it, you heard it, and you respond to the question based on the facts that you encountered yourself or witnessed or heard it. And please be reminded that you try to be brief in your statement to each question, and you yourself has informed the chamber that you are rather forgetful and you want brief question, and you should also try to be brief in your statement. You may proceed, Mr. Prosecutor.
Mr. Numu, where were you when you saw groups of Lon Nol soldiers being taken away?
I saw they took Lon Nol soldier away in Chung Roh commune in Prechrum Pagoda. They evacuated people, including soldiers as well.
Thank you, Mr. Numu. Those are all the questions we have. Thank you.
The President. Thank you. Now, I hand over the floor to the lead co-lawyers for the civil parties to put the question to the witness. You may proceed. Counsel Penyong. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. The delegated lawyer is Mr. Lauchen T and Counsel Ben Lijie. The President, you may proceed. Counsel Lauchen T. First of all, good afternoon, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon, Mr. Numuk. I am Lauchen T. I am a lawyer from the Legal Aid of Cambodia, and I am also a civil party lawyer. I have a few questions for you, in addition to the various questions put by my learned colleagues. from the prosecution. I would like to begin my question with the time when you first joined the revolution. Who inducted you to the revolution? Were you introduced to revolution by any relative? Response: no. Well, but my cousin back then, my cousin who was a member of the commune committee of Trường Roa, who introduced me because he was a party member, and there was another relative by the name of Uông Chon, and then Mom Tal. And I was back then a member of the commune committee myself. Thank you. Question. In connection with your entry into revolution, what was the reason behind your decision to join revolution? The President interrupts. Mr. Mao, please observe that the microphone is activated before you speak. Response. At that time, my relative who was working in the commune committee asked me to join the revolution. I told them that I was not a suitable person, taking into account my little education and literacy. Then they continue to tell me that once I got involved, I would learn from it. So at that time, I could not protest any further, or I would risk my own safety and security. Question. So you said if you protested, you would be at risk. Can you please enlighten the court on this point? What would be the likely risk you would encounter if you protest joining? Response. The risk would be that I indirectly disagree with the revolution against Lon Nol administration. So if I did not join the revolution, they would not trust me, because I was part of the commune committee as well, so I had no choice but to join the revolution.
Counsel, thank you. I have another point that I wish to also ask you. When you joined the revolution, did you receive any trainings on the party's policies? Response. I joined the revolution hoping to liberate the people and country. if I did not join the movement, I would have problem being neutral because I either chose to join the revolution or end up being in the Lon controlled zone. So I was in between the rock and the hard place. And I had to work in 3 villages. And the movement was popular. Women, young people, including also asked to join the revolution. Question: what was actually the main purpose of the revolution? Was the revolution meant to be made against any particular regime? Response: the revolution was created or was initiated against the Lon regime because we were angry with them for bombing the country. Question: thank you. When did you start to know Tamok? If you don't remember the exact year, can you also say whether you knew him in 1972 or 1973? Response: I don't remember this. I don't remember the exact date. I only remember having met Tamok. Counsel: thank you. Between Tamok and Chuchet, and you say that you know both of them. Who would be more superior in governance? The President: Mr. Witness, could you please now be reminded to pause a little bit? Please wait until you see the red light before you proceed. You may now proceed. Response: I knew Tamok and Chuchet alias C. I knew them because they lectured during the political study sessions at Kon Tut. At that time, cadres from different parts of the country attended such sessions. There were about 200 participants in one of the sessions, and Chuchet was engaged in giving lecture on politics. I attended the session that lasted for about one month, and by sometime late of the session, Tamok joined as a person who lectured on military. In one of the sessions, he said cadres at all levels had to ensure that they can encourage people to join the movement to fight the Lon and the American imperialists. Answering to your question, I can say that Chuchet was more superior in his skills in politics than Tamok. Counsel: thank you.
បានចូលរៀនសូត្រនយោបាយហ្នឹងឬមួយពេលណាដែលលោកបានលើកឡើងថាតាមមុខ
You said you attended political study sessions and that Tamok and Chuchet lectured in the sessions. And you also testified that Chuchet and Tamok on one occasion had some disagreement. On what point did they disagree? Response. I don't remember this, but Tamok, who lectured in one of the political study sessions, and Chuchet, who also chaired the political study sessions when he focused on politics, and where about 200 cadres attended, talked about politics, and Tamok was talking about fighting the imperialists and the Americans. But whether Chuchet and Mok, whether Chuchet was better than Mok in his popularity among the civilians, I can say that Chuchet was much popular than Mok in terms of civilian popularity among the civilian, I mean. Council, thank you. I think I was asking you about this, or I may rephrase it. You said that Chuchet and Tamok had some disagreement in their point of view. My question to you would be whether they had disagreement in evacuation of the population or on which point. The President, Mr. Witness, could you please be advised to please observe some pause because it was not heard if you proceeded to speak when the mic was not on. You may not proceed. Co-prosecutor, you may not proceed first, rather.
Mr. President, on a number of occasions you have reminded lead co-lawyers and others for the civil parties not to engage in repetitive questioning which covers the very same ground that has already been covered at length by the prosecutors. This questioning is on exactly the same ground as issues that have already been covered, and in my respectful submission, this does not go to the primary function of civil party questioning, which is to elicit evidence of suffering. In my respectful submission, counsel should move on to topics relevant to his role. Thank you.
Council pick on Mr. President and Your Honors. It is acceptable that the question is repetitive. Nonetheless, if counsels for the civil parties are asked only to put questions regarding injuries, I'm afraid it is hard to accept this position because counsels for the civil parties will also be entitled to put questions regarding the alleged crimes rather than the injuries. The President, thank you, counsel. The observation is somehow relevant because the chamber will do its best to make sure that repetitive questions are avoided, and the chamber will at this juncture also consider the relevance of the question of the civil party lawyers before the chamber regarding the witness, and indeed the council should be very minded and that such thing should not repeat itself. Council Lauchanti, thank you, and since co-prosecutor already pointed out about this, I would like to proceed to putting questions, further questions to Mr. Nu Mok. The President, Counsel, please be advised that this witness is not Nu Mok. He is Nu Mau, alias Mok. And now please treat his official name as Mau. Counsel Chunti, thank you, Mr. President.
ឥឡូវចំណុចសំខាន់ដែលខ្ញុំចង់ជំរាបសួរបន្តគឺ
I think the main thrust of my question is this.
មានចំណងពាក់ព័ន្ធឈ្មោះស៊ីដែលគេចាប់ស៊ីនៅពេលណា
When was he arrested? The President, Mr. Witness, please observe some pause before you proceed. Jury counsel should also be quick to help him so that he can be well reminded. And perhaps jury counsel may have to alert the witness or just give him a signal before he can proceed to respond to questions. Otherwise, his message would not be heard. Response. If I remember the question correctly, you were asking about a person by the name of C and when he was arrested. The answer is simple. I don't know. The President, you may continue. We may proceed to another question. Counsel, who arrested you and who detained you? Response. People at the cooperatives who brought me to Basat and where I was detained. It was Prasad prison. I heard from other that this person was from sector 15, but later on he also disappeared and I don't know who could have arrested him. And his father-in-law, rather C's brother-in-law, was also deceased when his wife still alive when I was detained at that prison. Bombs were dropped at Piam Chan. It was that moment that prisoners who some of them were shackled had to be evacuated. Counsel, I am sorry to interrupt you. I will have the final question for you, please. You said you knew the plan to evacuate Phnom Penh. My question to you is, after the evacuation of Phnom Penh, were you aware that the Khmer Rouge asked people to come to Phnom Penh to work? And if so, what happened to them? Response. I don't know this because now you are going back to the evacuation of the population because we talked about this already. Counsel, thank you very much, Mr. Witness. I have no further questions.
Yes. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon to everyone in and around the courtroom. My name is Penny Ye. I'm one of the international civil party lawyers, and I would like to ask you a few follow-up questions. First, I want to talk about the lone wolf soldiers that you said you saw were taken away. Can you tell the court how many soldiers you saw being taken away?
Response. I think your question also makes me go back a little bit. Indeed, people were evacuated from the city, and a lot of soldiers also were sent from Phnom Penh. I saw them. They were not armed. They were disarmed, in other words. They were seen carrying only a backpack, a military backpack, and they were asked to move to the west, and they never returned.
So the lone wolf soldiers that you saw taken away in Kampong Speu came actually from Phnom Penh. Did I understand that correctly?
Response. Yes, it is correct. I saw them at Prey Chum at Cheung Roa commune. Indeed, these people were evacuated together. I mean, the soldiers along with the general public. And after that, I did not know what happened. And again, please reassure that I'm not really telling this for the sake of telling the chamber. I am telling all the truth. The President, Counsel, please move on to the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. And I would like to ask you now, how did you know that these were lone wolf soldiers if they were evacuated together with the civilians?
Response. They could be identified because they were wearing uniforms, the military uniforms and the gear that could make me tell you that they were soldiers, and they were told that they would be taken to study sessions. And at that time, my health was not good, but I saw them, and it was not a rumor. I saw them personally, and they were received at a place to the south of the pagoda. A lot of lone wolf soldiers would be seen packing this area, and they were brought from Phnom Penh. And that's all I know. After they were taken to any study sessions, that is not my knowledge. And again, to confirm this, I saw them wearing military uniform and the military gear, but they were not armed. So again, I am telling the truth. The President, Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Can you, because you said that you saw a lot of soldiers, can you give us a rough estimate how many soldiers you saw at that time?
Response. I'm afraid I cannot say exactly. Perhaps 100 or so. There are a lot of them, and they were placed in a location near that pagoda, and they also were offered some food. and the following day they were sent to education sessions by the upper echelon, and that's all I know.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I would like now to come to another topic. You said this morning that after the evacuation from Phnom Penh, there was a clear segregation between base people and new people. My question is, could you please describe this segregation?
Response. I'm afraid I cannot respond to this question because the only thing I know is that people were asked to receive people from Phnom Penh, and that they identified the base people and the new people from Phnom Penh, and that the base people were asked to prepare foods and other things to receive these newcomers.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. After the arrival of these newcomers, did you observe that the treatment between the new people and the base people were the same, or were they different?
Response. I think it was at that time that I was no longer a member in the organization, in the cooperative. I was more or less an ordinary person. But I know that 3 people would be grouped together, and that a base person or villager would be placed among these new people so that these new people could be monitored.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. Do you know why these new people had to be monitored by base people?
Response. That I don't know, because I was made to work at the handicraft section, and at that place I did not know much about this.
Thank you. And after the monitoring of the new people, would the base people report to the Khmer Rouge authorities in your cooperative?
Response. I don't wish to speculate. It is only that I saw 3 new people would be mixed with one base person. But the purpose of having this group is, of course, to make sure that the new people and the base people can work together. I just don't know further motive behind this grouping.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I would like to now come to my last topic. You said earlier on that before the Khmer Rouge took over, monks were lured to defrock to join the army during a meeting with Damok. My question is, do you know if monks were also defrocked after the Khmer Rouge took over?
Response. I believe that there were no more monks to be defrocked because they had already been defrocked. Because the Khmer Rouge soldier already engaged in the movement to make sure monks were defrocked. I think perhaps this question is rather repetitive, because Damok was in charge of cult section, and in the rally he promoted the idea of having all the Buddhist monks defrocked.
Thank you. Maybe I didn't make myself clear enough. I was referring to the period after the Khmer Rouge took over, after 17th April 1975. Did you know if the defrocking of monks continued after that period?
Response: no more monks to be defrocked, because they had already been defrocked at the very beginning. It was a kind of huge campaign in defrocking the monks by the Khmer Rouge. Although people did not wish to be defrocked, they had no choice but being defrocked after all. And again, this was all the idea of Tamok, who was in charge of the cult section. That's all from me. I think I already talked about this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Witness. I have no further questions, and I wish you a safe journey back home.
The President. Thank you. Mr. Witness, would you like to say anything else? It appeared to us that you would like to say a few words. You may proceed. Witness, actually, she said thank you to me, and I just wish to thank her as well. And I thank you, Mr. President. The President, thank you. And it is now appropriate time already for the adjournment. The Chamber will adjourn for 20 minutes. The next session will be resumed by 10 to 3. Court officer is now directed to assist the witness and his jury counsel during the adjournment and have them return to the courtroom by the time set. The court is adjourned.
សូមអញ្ជើញក្រោយឈរ